Okay.
Hello,
Hey, Suzanne.
welcome. We have one of our really star students here today, Zechariah Zanders. And Zech, he's just blowing it all out of the water. We're really, really excited for his success, and he's crushing it. He's totally crushing it. So I'm going to ask a few questions and let him dive in. So, Zech, tell us a little bit about why 10X?
Yeah, so for years I've seen like on mostly on Instagram ads for different Airbnb programs. Um, when I saw 10X, so I was on Instagram, I saw, an ad that was Sean, and I really connected with his story. And I really liked how he showed where he started from. And I knew, okay, this guy's authentic, he's real, he's legit. He's not like one of those gurus that's like, you can make $10 million at Airbnb in 3 weeks, and none of that. It was, hey, you need to work hard and here's how you do it. And I've bought other mentorship programs before. So I have kind of gotten an eye for what's good and what's not based on their ads, based on their webinars. And when I watched the webinar, and the story of Sean and Ari, I just knew, okay, this is it. I watched it, I showed it to my wife, said, hey, do you want to do this together? She watched it. We talked a little bit. She said, yeah. And then we got into the program. So, and it's been great. I love this program. Yeah, it's really good.
Wonderful. So that being said, when did you guys start?
We started about 6 months ago. Yeah.
Sweet, sweet.
Earlier in the year.
Nice, nice. And then when did you begin? Tell us a little bit about your process when you began to prospect and the modules. Tell us how you worked with the program and then when you went live.
Yeah, well, I didn't waste any time. So we got we got into the program, immediately started going through the modules. And after module 4 is when I began prospecting. So I chose the route. I know in the modules we, teach different methods. I chose Facebook Marketplace because it moves fast. Like people, like I know just from past experiences using Facebook Marketplace, sellers, they respond quickly because obviously they're trying to get something sold or whatever the case is, or get a home rented in this case. So going in there and saying, hey, paraphrasing, but saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know you're trying to rent this home for $2,500, but you can make 2 to 3 times that, if you go with short-term rental route. And you get your no's, that's a part of it, but then you get the people who are interested. And so I remember prospecting. I remember, to land our first deal, I had 6 different calls with 6 different sellers and closed one of those sellers.
Nice.
A couple of them, weren't very serious. Some of them were interested, but just had different things going on. And then there was one who we had to have a few calls. It wasn't a one call close, but we had a couple of conversations, went back and forth, some deliberation. I needed to run some numbers, because she had some questions and different things like that. Got it worked out. So I solved problem 1, which was her confidence in this working, because she had already been doing it, but wasn't seeing a certain level of success.
Okay.
And so, and then, but I problem solved, there to get the deal closed. And then, we've been working with her ever since. So,
If you had to break down how you problem solved with her, were there any like little gems that you can pass along to some of the other students, like how you helped close the deal and build her confidence? Because you're good at that. By the way, Zech has a sales background.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, for her, one of her biggest things was she was like, well, I would like to do midterm rentals. Now we are doing short term with Airbnb, but initially that was her thing. She was like, I've been doing Airbnb. Here's what you're going to hear from sellers if they have experience doing Airbnb already. I'm going to say, I'm already doing this. Why would I need somebody like you? Because then I have to give up a percentage, right? Now, they're probably not being arrogant. They just don't know what they don't know. They likely don't have the sophistication of systems and process that Sean and Ari and the coaches in the program teach us. They're just probably YouTubing, like how to run an Airbnb, and they're getting some information. And so she was like, I'd already been doing Airbnb. It's getting booked out or whatever, but I want to do midterm. And typically what I found through my experience and even through talking with Travis, who's one of the coaches in the program, is that these landlords, like the idea of midterm sounds good because it's in their perception, it's not as risky as something like Airbnb, and they can make more than long term. It's like that middle ground that feels safe, and so that was her kind of that was the objection that I had to problem solve. So I ran numbers, and I came up with a mathematical model, to kind of get an idea of like, okay, here's probably what your home could sell for if you did, I mean, not sell for, here's how much you can make on a monthly or a contractual basis if you did midterm to nurses or professionals who need somewhere to stay for 2 months or whatever the case is, even college students, who are going to stay for 9 months, and then go home for the summer or whatnot. Here's what you could probably make, being decently conservative. Now, if you do short term with Airbnb and you can improve your systems, here's how much you can make. And I can show you, if you're curious, what those systems, what kind of that entails without, well, I can I'm more so telling her the what without the how, so like, hey, we would do this. Like, so we have like advanced pricing strategy that that allows the pricing to be dynamic, right? So you're not leaving money on the table, those kind of things, telling a lot of the what without the how, and knowing that a lot of these things she's not doing, and that's what got her interest. She as I was able to do that, first I dealt with what was her concern. I didn't try to sell her. I was like, okay, well, let's work through this. And then I contrasted it with what could be if she did short term based on market data, in the BNBIQ report, which she was impressed with. And then from there, I said, hey, I can tell you how this is possible. I know it seems lofty, but it actually makes sense once you know. And she allowed me to explain, again, the what without the how. So we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, but I'm not going into the softwares. I'm not going into, giving away the trade secrets. And she
Exactly.
realized, wow, okay, these guys are operating on a level of sophistication that I'm just not. And she immediately was like, wow, you're the expert, you're the professional, let's do it. That's,
Yeah.
kind of how it went. So
You didn't have to sell her too much. And here's the good thing about Zech too. Like I said, Zech has a sales background and he's applying. I want you guys to hear this. He sold the what and not the how, and that's really important. He also, that's a really extremely exceptional close rate to call 6 people and get 1. That's fantastic. That's a really good rate. But he does this as a profession, so he knows sales. And I want you guys to cue into our Mondays and Tuesday night classes, the Monday nights with BNBIQ with Travis, and then Tuesday night with John Giro, who walks you through how to close a sale and how to do a sale, for those of you especially that do not have sales backgrounds. But back to Zech. Tell us a little bit. So you started the program like 6 months ago. About 3 months ago, you closed on this opportunity. Did you listen to any of our live classes at all alongside modules?
Yeah, I was going to a lot of Travis's calls, the BNBIQ, as well as Beth's calls, when I
Great.
could make hers. Yeah, so those are the main ones. And then I would watch replays, so there were calls I couldn't make. So I would watch the replays if I was maybe working and I was just more like keyboard work, so I'd play it on my headphones, or driving somewhere, I'd play, just to try, because I wanted to just familiarize myself so that when I'm speaking to these landlords, it just rolls off my tongue, the
Exactly. I
language
did
I'm
the
calling
same
everything.
thing. I
Yeah.
agree with you. It's like you want to practice and get it in your head. And like you say, listen to it repeatedly. I would do it when I was like washing dishes, making dinner,
Exactly.
doing something kind of mindless, and let that thing keep running in the background. So I could
Yeah.
hear it again and again. And you become very familiar with this and you know what to
Yeah.
say. This is not something where Zech is very successful and he's really grounded in what he's doing. And that's why we chose to put him, as a prime example. He's a best case example here. But he didn't do this 2 weeks out. He did the process. He practiced the process, which is great. He used the tools. He used the modules. He used the live classes. He used the replays. He got grounded in it. And if you closed within 3 months, would you say maybe you spent the first 2.5 months of listening and practicing and getting to know yeah, exactly, which is right. And that's kind of what we advocate. Cool. So that being said, I'm going to throw it back to you. So what would you say the value of her property is?
So actually, this property, she bought it in March of this year for $350,000. So yeah, that's what it
And
market rate.
and when she originally bought it, was she going to just rent it long term?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
well, okay. Well, let me back up. So when we initially onboarded her, she had a home in one city and then this new home. So the home in one city is what we were initially discussing with her, and that's what we had closed on. And then this other home, she basically, when we closed on the first, is when she told us about the second home. Like, hey, I'm going down there, this, well, like next month. But basically, she was going down there to close and get it ready. And she was like, I want you to manage it. And
Yeah.
we had basically just met her, but it was from, again, being able, programming my brain, to be familiar, even though I hadn't done it yet, be familiar with everything and tell her how, like, what we're going to do, and she was just confident they're going to be able to take care of it.
Yeah.
And it's been a
Yeah.
success. Yeah, home's been a
That's beautiful.
success.
That's great. And so when I think we were talking about this prior. Tell us a little bit about the projections and the numbers. What does long term look like to short term? What do those numbers look like, and what are you projecting for the
Yeah.
year? Fiscal.
So yeah, so the market rate for her home would go for about $2,500 a month on a 12-month lease. I mean, but let's be super generous and say it's $3,000 a month. That put her at $36,000 a month.
So she's
I mean, sorry,
somewhere,
$36,000 a year.
yeah, she's somewhere between 30 and 36 then with a long
Yeah,
term rental. And then
exactly.
what did Zach come up with? What did B&BIQ say?
So yeah, so well, I can share screens. So the BNBIQ projected about $87,000, just a little over that.
Mhm.
In our first 3 months, we've already, like, brought in $27,000. Um,
Great.
and even the crazy thing with that is, her home, she wanted to refinance the home.
Mhm.
So had us unlisted for 3 weeks. During that process, with whoever's giving her the money, I guess that was a requirement or whatnot. We
Okay.
just put it back on. So that's really just over 2 months, technically, if you want to
So
look at it,
really, yeah, that's
$27,000,
that's
Um,
pretty incredible. Yeah.
yeah, and so we've had 30 different people reserve. Average revenue per reservation, a little under $1,000. So
Mm.
97 nights booked out of 365, and again, it's only a little over 2 months.
Fabulous.
So yeah, she's really happy. She's very satisfied, and she's actually on vacation right now because she knows we're taking care of everything.
That's
Uh,
nice. So
so
you guys are coming in with 13 plus K per month, because literally this is only a reflection of 2 months versus three, even though you've been live for three, because one month you were taken off task.
yeah,
So that's fantastic. That's
yeah,
fantastic. Anything else you want to show us? Do you want to walk us through the listing at all?
yeah. Can you see this?
Yes, it looks great.
Yeah.
Lakeside Family Oasis, 19 minutes to downtown, 10 guests.
Yeah.
Okay.
So big part of our strategy. So the city she's in is called Savannah, Georgia. Um, and so a lot of families, like, go there during the warmer months, like travel.
Mhm.
If this were a home, like, right in the heart of Savannah, you might attract a lot more, maybe people who are single or married couples with no kids. But she's, like, a little bit outside of the city,
Mhm.
like in the suburban area. So we knew families. So that was our strategy. We're like, hey, where your home's located, it's going to be most appealing for families. It's got the space for families. We can sleep 10 people. If she wanted, could really sleep more just by adding more air mattresses in. Uh,
Mhm.
but want to keep some of the liability down. But anyhow, and she did a great job designing the home. She did get some of our advice on the design, but I'm not going to take all the credit. She did a great job, putting this together. And then we did our part in setting up the listing very
Mhm.
strategically, not just with, the photos and the order of the photos, but also just in our description, to really have it stand out. Like, we use some special softwares to kind of bold or italicize, the different areas. We put different sections in here. We modeled a lot of this after what's in the training, and then we added our own spin in some ways, but make it
Nice.
really easy to read while still thinking about what are people going to be searching when they're in Airbnb, and putting those words in there,
Those key
different
search
things like that.
terms, right? Like how close are you to the sports center, or the
Yeah.
layout of this or that. Right. Got it.
Local
Yeah.
amenities, yeah, exactly, and we made sure that on all the photos, that there's also captions under the photo so that it again,
Fabulous.
this thing shows up higher in the search results with words that are like pool and ping pong table. Those are amenities that Airbnb has when you're setting up your listing.
Mhm.
Um, so we wanted to make sure we included that just wherever we possibly could so that Airbnb recognizes our listing more often and pushes our listing when people are searching. So,
Beautiful. Look at that. Oh my God. Did she hire an interior designer? Or is that just her
no,
thing?
that's just her. She's very
Wow.
creative in this
Very
ways.
creative. I mean, to me, this is a 90 percentile, people. I mean, it
Yeah,
just sings. It sings. And this is going to make it easier for Zech and his wife to rock it out and help this
yeah,
landlord. No wonder they're making over 13,000 a month. You're killing it
definitely.
because you've
Yeah.
got all the right things in place here. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and so and even that's another thing, like, in my heart of hearts, I was like, "This is like a 90th percentile home," but when I was speaking to her, we did talk a little bit about it, but again, she already kind of pretty much trusted us quite a bit, and just pretty much gave it into our hands, but I did everything. I did pull a B&B IQ report for this, and I did it based off the 75th percentile, I was still conservative,
Exactly.
number
We
still
always recommend that. Yes, yes.
yeah.
Good. Yeah. Don't overpromise. You want to under promise, over deliver, right?
Exactly. And she is like, wow, like this has been great. I mean, she's used to it now, but initially she was like, well, it's getting booked out. She was excited. So,
And
yeah,
Zech, you guys, Zech is on this path. Think about what he said in the beginning, long-term rental, 30 to 36K. Well, what's your projection for the year, Zech?
our first year we're projected to make between 75, 80,000.
And that's
Being
not even
actually,
at 90 percentile yet. And so look at that.
yeah,
That's like he's close to double 2x, 3x, just like the program says, right? And you're not
yeah,
even 90 percentile yet.
yeah,
So
exactly.
God bless.
And
That
there's
is
actually a
beautiful.
lot that we have planned for the house over time. Like I said, hey, we got this backyard with the lake. She wants to put a fence up. I said, when we get a fence, let's get backyard games, cornhole, just yard games. Let's get a fire pit with some chairs. Let's do all these different things that'll get it to that 90 plus. And just completely smash like so any house in Savannah. Period. Like we want to, for families, like we want to completely deck it out. The inside of the house is, everything's pretty much set up. There's a few things we could do, but really wanting to in the future capitalize on that backyard. And so that's another thing is how can we improve things? We're doing great, and that's great, but I see the opportunity for this listing to go much further. And we're going to treat every single listing that way. So yeah,
Beautiful. I love it. I mean, this is a really great. Thank you for sharing your story. I know you're inspiring a lot of people. Anything you want to say about what your next steps are? Like what do you and your wife see as some of your next steps and when that might come into play?
yeah. We're gonna so our plan is to eventually go from bed flipping, which this is bed flipping. Someone owns the home and everything. We're just virtually hosting it all. And truly virtually, we live 4 or 5 hours from that house. So like I've never even met the cleaners in person. So it's super remote, as long as you set the systems up according to the training, you'll be good. And then from there, the next phase is, we have homes that we get a 12-month lease on, and then we start doing Airbnb out of it. And then eventually we're owning our own properties doing it, whether it's single family homes or multifamily units or whatnot. And then just Airbnb, and specifically choosing markets that are good for Airbnb. So that's kind of and we wouldn't know how to do that without this program. And we'll probably keep a division of our business that is still doing bed flipping, even when we're doing all that, because you can outsource. That's the beautiful thing is you can build the systems, teach people how to run the systems, and then move on, and still keep an eye on it. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
why not? I don't have to if someday I don't have to do the work because the systems are so great that Ari and Sean teach, that I could teach someone else and it's easy.
Mhm.
Why not have this aspect of the business that started us off continue running on?
Love
So,
it.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Zech, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. I know you're inspiring many. And you guys look below. We're going to add the listing. Please like it. Please visit it. Please book it when you're in Savannah. It's a gorgeous place, right? And yeah, we'll be sharing some screen shares below as well. So thanks you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Zach.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.